The Rock Whisperer. Do you hear the earth talking to you? Hi, I'm Mr. Levin from Galway High School, and I'm here with Merlin Lawson, PhD from the University of Nebraska, Lincoln. Dr. Lawson, thanks for spending some time with us, and I've got a few quick questions for you. So, number one, when did you know that you wanted to study geoscience?
I began my academic career at the University of Buffalo, which is now SUNY Buffalo, in chemistry. And during the summer, I worked for the carborundum company in high temperature refractory materials, the same materials that go on the shuttle to protect it from burning up when it comes back from space. And I spent all my time in a lab, and I realized that I really wanted to get out in the world and start to see the world. I'm an Eagle Scout. I like camping. I like getting out with nature. And so I changed my major over to geography and geology and got my degree from SUNY Buffalo. I was the first graduating class from SUNY Buffalo.
Nice. Where did you get your PhD?
I went and got my master's and PhD at Clark University. It's the oldest graduate college of geography in the United States, and worked in glacial geomorphology for my master's and then climate change for my doctoral degree.
So they were studying climate change back in the late 60s, early 70s?
That's right.
Nice. So that was a little bit about your educational path and your colleges that you attended, so you cover that question.
Yes.
What was your area of research for you? And I know that you're retired now, so you're still involved, but not nearly as much.
Well, my initial research was on my master's degree when I studied glacial and proglacial landforms in New England. That's much different than in the Rockies because we're dealing with continental glaciation. And in New England, the continental glaciation was often dealing with stagnant ice when the Wisconsin glaciation was essentially being terminated and going into the Holocene. My next research was in climate change. I studied the climate of the Great American Desert, which was a perceived desert by those crossing the Great Plains and going on to California and Oregon. And that got me interested in going beyond just the perception of the climate, but really what were the forcing mechanisms of climate change.
Thank you. So what's one of the coolest things you've done that's science related? I know you've told a lot of great stories on our trip, but science related, what was one of the best things you've done?
I essentially had two careers in science. My first career was at Nebraska, was really working with ice cores in Greenland and trying to reconstruct climate using ice cores and with tree rings. In fact, I even studied tree rings on a fjord in Greenland to try to reconstruct climate back to the Little Ice Age, which ended about 1850. I then went into administration, became Dean of Graduate Studies, and also Dean of International Affairs at the University of Nebraska. And after 16 years, I thought I wanted to get back to teaching, ironically, because I really missed working with students and working with graduate students. So I returned to the faculty in 2003 and became the chief undergraduate advisor for the meteorology students, majors. And at that time, I started collaborating with a colleague of mine on coral research. I got into remote sensing, and that led me to scuba diving in Honduras, and we were able to dive and measure the reflectance of the coral while the satellites were going overhead so that we could then get some kind of feedback so that we could measure any damage to coral by potential climate change on a global basis. So I really had two careers, one in the Arctic and one in the tropical regions.
So you've been to two different distinct places. Is there one place that you've traveled that's kind of really stands out as a top place?
Ironically, the places that I've traveled that stand out was when I was International Dean and Graduate Dean. I taught meteorology one summer in Tajikistan and climbed the mountains in Tajikistan and went into Uzbekistan. Taught with an interpreter meteorology in Tajik University over there in Hujan.
Awesome. So last question. I know that you're retired at this point, but what's one question you wish that someone would ask you about your job or your former job, and why?
That's a difficult question. I guess it is difficult.
I can throw you a different question.
Yeah, why don't you?
All right. This question isn't on the list, but who was one of your favorite students that you advised while you were in college at Nebraska?
Professors like to be remembered by their success stories. Every professor wants to have their students be more successful than they are. And I had Rick Giardino as a student of mine.
I think I've heard of him
and
before.
He has surpassed all of the accomplishments that I made. He is internationally famous. He is nationally renowned for his teaching ability, and he's been recognized with the Piper Award and other awards at Texas A&M. But the last one, the Piper Award, was where he was the best teaching professor in this entire state of Texas, and I'm very proud that he won that.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Merlin. I appreciate your time.
Don't forget to listen to the Earth. You just may hear it speak.